Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today I have an update for you guys for an Entitled People story we covered quite a while ago. I think it's been almost a year at this point, so if you've forgotten about this one or haven't seen this one yet, I highly recommend you check it out first. But without further ado, let's jump into the update. Update to my nephews stealing cans from my shed. My eldest nephew went mental on my house. I would love to say that my sister, brother-in-law, and nephew have learned from this whole ordeal, but unfortunately, that's not the case, especially for my eldest nephew, who just couldn't let go of wanting revenge on me, and he stupidly tried to get it. Here's what happened. To recap, as many previous readers know, my nephew stole a buttload of cans from my shed after breaking into it and cashed them in at the bottle drop for about $200. My sister and Bill acted like I was the asshole for wanting the money back for the cans and damages. I ended up pressing charges because they refused to pay. I filed a small claims lawsuit, and they had to pay me back for the cost of damages, emotional damages for constant harassment, and the cost of the lawsuit itself, all adding up to $500. This finally momentarily made my sister and Bill raise a white flag and start actually parenting their kids. My nephews got all their privileges taken away and were forced by a judge to work community service. My nephews ended up picking up garbage and doing work around several local parks. The man directing them, I heard, was a retired drill sergeant, so they had no fun whatsoever. My eldest nephew constantly showed his issues with authority and got into screaming matches with everyone who told him to work. His father had to be called over just to make the boy pick up a rake. The kid openly blamed me for this predicament, and his brothers were initially on his side, but after a while, they realized that he was just crazy and entitled, and they no longer wanted any part of it, or him. Problem is that my sister and Bill blamed me for the divide in their family, which didn't end well for them, as nobody in the family was on their side. Everything was put on them and their bad parenting. They then became silent and bitter. Half the family doesn't want to associate with them, and now their own kids are divided because the eldest refuses to change. My eldest nephew became so infuriated with me that he resorted to coming to my home in the middle of the night and assaulting my house with a pair of his dad's claw hammers. I say a pair because he literally had one in each hand. The first thing he did was start smashing the new lock on my shed, and it didn't break. However, he heavily damaged it to the point it was no longer usable, and I had to later remove it with bolt cutters. He also did a lot of damage to the shed door. I awoke to the sounds of hammers and called the police after peeking out my bedroom window and seeing someone outside hitting the shed. I didn't realize it was him at first because he had his face covered with a mask. I later reviewed my camera footage of the incident and knew it was him. He saw the bedroom lights come on and chucked one of the hammers through my window. There was broken glass everywhere. My nephew then started beating on my back door with the remaining hammer. He did major damage, breaking the knob and the window on the door, and also tore into the door itself with the hammer claw. I was getting scared and worried that the door wouldn't hold out, so I yelled that the police were on their way, and he took off before they arrived. The night vision on my cameras showed it was him. He had a mask on, but was wearing his school hoodie, as well as his Nike shoes, which were also pretty identifiable since he wears them every single day. His fingerprints were also on the hammer he threw at my window, and my nephews had all been fingerprinted when they were arrested the first time. When the cops came for my eldest nephew, he obviously denied it was him. The other hammer was found in his room, along with the clothes and mask he wore, all of which were taken as evidence. The mask was of a Star Wars character I was told is called the Grand Inquisitor, so it was very obvious it was him. This time though, his parents did nothing to try to protect him, and they surprisingly didn't try to pass the blame on me either. They just let their son be taken away screaming. I wasn't there to see the arrest, but I was told that my eldest nephew was switching back and forth from crying that he didn't do anything wrong to screaming that it was all my fault. The boy had to go through a serious mental evaluation and was found to be bipolar. When he was properly diagnosed as bipolar, he of course started blaming everything he did wrong on that and acted like he should be vilified. He ended up having a month-long stint in juvenile hall. They got my nephew properly medicated, and he pleaded guilty to forego court start again in exchange for more community service and mandatory counseling, as well as probation this time. His dad came to my house and personally replaced the broken window and door, though he barely said a word to me while doing it. My two younger nephews are still excluding their older brother from pretty much everything. They dropped by on their own to personally apologize to me. They said that they just always followed their brother's lead, and he made everything they were doing seem so fun, but they realized what they were doing was wrong, and the punishments for the crimes are not worth it, and they don't want anything to do with it anymore. They asked if we could all start over. I said we can, but they'll have to earn back my trust, which they happily agreed to. My eldest nephew had his 17th birthday a few months ago, and basically got nothing. Not even a cake. It was part of his punishment for what he'd done. I can only imagine how much money he's cost his parents in the past year alone. I imagine in total, with the lawsuit I'd previously filed, and replacing both the door and window, cost them over $1,000. Doors and windows are not cheap. Meanwhile, my youngest nephew had his birthday a month after that, and got a new mountain bike. This really upset my eldest nephew, and he slashed the tires on the bike with a kitchen knife. I know a thing or two about fixing bikes, so I went out and bought new tubes and tires for the bike, and put them on it. So the bike is fine, and my nephew thanked me profusely. My eldest nephew resorted to trying to run away because he wasn't being enabled anymore. His parents quickly reported him missing because he left a goodbye letter that basically blamed me and his bipolar for all his problems. He came back 3 days later without the bike or backpack he left with, and looked beat up. He wouldn't tell anyone what happened. We still don't know, but he was chewed out for continuously using me as a scapegoat for his personal issues, because blaming me was the first thing he did after he got back. He nearly ended up back in juvie for running off because he violated his probation, but he got off easy somehow. Currently, he spends his days pretty much in his room when not in school, doing chores or going to counseling. He finished his community service, but his probation will last until he's 18. He got some lenience for being diagnosed as bipolar, but it couldn't get him off the hook. Believe me, he tried many times. Once they told him about it, it became his excuse for everything. He was discredited because plenty of people go their whole lives with that same condition and never do the kinds of things he does. I've been mending things with my two younger nephews, but I don't want to be around the eldest at all. The feeling is clearly mutual. I'd only seen him once in person in the past few months, and he glared at me with more hate than I'd ever seen from anyone before. My sister, Bill, and I are also not on the best terms right now, but they can't put any blame on me either. They know it was all on them and their bad parenting. I've basically forced them to be more active in their kids' lives, which they should have been doing already. They complain a lot about being tired from work and having to keep an eye on their kids, so whenever we talk as of late, it's always awkward and forced. My eldest nephew is also not welcome pretty much anywhere in the family anymore. I've recently heard from my parents that they don't even want to see him on Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve this year because they're sick of his behavior and petty thievery. I guess I can understand that, but even I feel that's a bit harsh. But to their credit, I would not want him in my house either, so I can understand why they've made that decision. On the other hand though, I don't think excluding him and ostracizing him from everything and everyone is gonna make him better. But I suppose he's made his own bed, so now he needs to lay in it for a while. It's gonna take a long time for my eldest nephew to mend bridges, if they can even be mended at all at this point. The way things stand, he may try running off again once he's of age, unless the last time scared him too much to try it again. Hopefully things will get better for him in time if it's not too late to fix his behavior. I may not like him, but he's still my nephew, and I do care. But the most I can do is just keep my nose out of it and offer support where I can. I definitely think that OP is going about this situation in all the right ways. The eldest nephew has proven himself to be a danger, and the way OP is holding such firm, safe, smart boundaries is a good move. Eldest nephew, unfortunately, is probably going to struggle quite a bit more before he gets his shit together, if he is even able to at all. So OP removing himself from that situation is totally justified. I also think it's really great that OP is allowing relationship repair with the younger nephews. Having grace with the young people in our lives who mess up but show remorse and change their behavior is something that will help them far more than ostracizing them. And it shows them that they are more than their worst mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and if you show that you are genuinely remorseful and have changed, humility and second chances are deserved, especially when it comes to teens, because they're still just trying to figure out who they are, after all. Eldest nephew, on the other hand, hasn't shown any remorse or signs of accountability, which is why he shouldn't be granted the same yet. I really hope he does figure himself out though and changes his behavior one day. But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed this Entitled People update. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!